Jesteśmy z powrotem, słuchajcie, grupa A i B zakończyły już swoje rozgrywki. Mamy oczywiście już Manę w drugim etapie, w kolejnym etapie, zobaczymy go jutro. Przed nami kolejna grupa wspaniałych zawodników z grupy C. Przed nami mecz otwarcia grupy C, w którym no, bratobójcza walka. Mam nadzieję, że przyjmiecie ich tak samo ciepło, bo są Polakami, którzy walczą na Intel Extreme Masters w Katowicach. Zapraszam do siebie DieStara! Po mojej drugiej stronie Artur. Znacie tego pana? Słuchajcie, obiecałem coś chłopakom z publiczności, którzy nas tutaj wspierają, więc robiliście już to z Karmakiem. Zanim zadam im pytania, rączki. 3, 2, 1. Zaczynamy w takim razie. Okej. Ale słabo poszło. Dam wam szansę się poprawić. Jesteście gotowi? Ręce. Wspaniała publiczność, Marcin.
Zgadzam się.
Artur, słuchaj, zacznijmy od ciebie w takim razie. What do you think about this group? This is just the beginning, first game, the most important, the less important. What do you think?
I don't want to underestimate anybody, but I think it's a little bit easier than, for example, Paranoid's group.
Okay, you heard the man. DieStar, what are your feelings about this group? How do you want to play? What are your goals? I guess you really want to advance, isn't it?
Yes, I want to advance, but it will be really hard. Opponents are pretty strong. Now I think the first match will be the hardest for me because I don't like Nerchio's style, but I think I can win this. We'll see.
Thank you very much. I know those are difficult questions, so shake your hands, guys. Good luck and have fun. Big round of applause for DieStar and Nerchio. Oddajemy głos w takim razie naszym ekspertom.
ZVT, Nerchio versus DieStar, the first game of Group C coming up. Things are getting heated. 2 polls on stage right now. People are conflicted.
Yeah, I feel like people want Nerchio to win.
But they did. It did feel there was a lot more cheering for Nerchio.
Yeah,
I wonder why that is.
Nerchio is definitely the crowd favorite. He's been doing very well recently. Won DreamHack Bucharest, I believe, the one where Bly also placed second. Nerchio placing very high in almost every tournament he participates in.
Every Intel Extreme Masters I've been at, he's competed almost to the finals.
Yeah, he's just a very, very strong player in general, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him take first in his group.
Neither would I. The first map is Cloud Kingdom. What do you think we're going to see from the Terran?
Well, there are a lot of different ways to play Cloud Kingdom. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to play any map. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a fast third command center. Relatively easy to float that from your main into the third, which is pretty important as a Terran player. It's very risky to build that third command center at the third. Lings, there's a couple of slow lings, a couple speed lings, force you to bring your Hellions back, force you to bring Banshees back, possibly forcing a cancel. It's just super risky. So Cloud is really nice in that the third is very close to the main. Build it in your main, float it down whenever you feel like it, and you're not losing a lot of mining time with the command center in the air.
And Todd, how excited are you for this ZVT?
You know, I give most love to Protoss players, but yeah, it's a good match. I do think that it might be one-sided for Nerchio, but I'm hoping DieStar can put on a good show. I know there was a time he used to play pretty well against Zerg. He's a macro guy as well, you know, like we've got this really narrowed down, like who's an all-in guy, who's a confuser, who's a macro guy, and DieStar is definitely a macro guy. He's going to make a second command center, take an expansion, maybe take a third, go for some upgrades, lots of bio and everything. And Nerchio, same thing for him. He does not cheese too much. He always goes for those 3 bases at least, goes for this hive tech, and in the meantime he gets a lot of upgrades. So that's the kind of games I like to see the most.
Now it's a big ask to go into a macro game against Nerchio and win.
Yes.
So I'm thinking there's probably a strong chance that we're going to see something really aggressive off the start. What do you think our cheese chances are in this match?
I mean, the thing is, there's not that much cheese that happens before the 2 base mark. Like,
Yeah, but after that, like, for example, the push with 2-1 upgrades. Like, is there some variance of this, of this attack where like you're completely all in, where like you pull SCVs? And stuff?
not really.
Really?
No. The thing
I'll
is,
make one, then.
usually you don't pull SCVs. You don't go all in with that timing because of the existence of Banelings. Banelings, just a couple of Banelings will kind of blow up all the SCVs and take that out. The cheeses are more like, it's like, okay, on 1 base, sometimes you do like gas first or very early gas. That gives you like Hellion drop, Medevac drop. Very rarely you might do 1 base Cloak Banshee, but that's pretty bad. Most people don't do that. Then there's of course 2 racks. Once you go up to 2 base though, there's like Marauder Hellion timing, there's Marine Combat Shield, Hellion timing, there's Hellion Cloak Banshee, 2 Factory Hellion, like double reactor, which is a little less common than say like 2 Factory Pre-Igniter, but it really just depends on what DieStar prepared. It wouldn't probably be a very good idea to be like, I'm playing Nerchio, I'm just going to do something I've never done before. So I don't know, we'll just have to see.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see. The players are in the game. It started. Have fun.
We are going into our first match here in this group. We have now DieStar versus Nerchio. The map has started. We are ready to go with the match. Poland versus Poland, Terran versus Zerg, and this is definitely going to be an exciting match.
Yeah, DieStar, a European Terran that has interested me a lot for a long, long time, but going up against Nerchio, you can imagine it's going to be a little bit difficult for him.
It's going to be really difficult. Starting to the bottom left, we have him now in blue. This is one of our 2 Polish players in this game. This is DieStar.
Spawning up to the north position here, as are Red Zerg. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Nerchio! Right. Cloud Kingdom, our map of choice here for game number 1, as we have DieStar just going to be continuing a little bit of a wall in at the beginning of his ramp.
You know, if you look at those 2 players, it's a little bit incredible how often they played against each other in all those online and offline tournaments that they participated in. We have more than 33 maps played between the 2 of them, and we have an 80% win ratio for Nerchio. It's kind of incredible. This guy was able to 2-0 DieStar so often in the past few months. It's insane. So definitely the odds here stacked in favor of our Zerg player, and we will see if the Terran player can overcome these odds and if he's able to just edge out these wins in such an important tournament in Poland.
Yep, and thanks to the positions that he spawned in, he edges out a little bit of a positional advantage in the way in which he can position his initial barracks. He can position it there so that he can throw the tech lab down or the reactor in a little more of a defensive position, which is nice for him.
And for DieStar, this is actually his worst matchup. And like going up against an opponent like Nerchio is never an easy challenge, especially since Nerchio seems to be one of those players that is completely cheese-proof. It doesn't really matter what you try to do, you won't be able to surprise him. Doesn't matter if it's going to be some double starport, cloak, banshee attempt, Hellions running into the main base, the double barracks opening. For some reason, he always seems to be in his opponent's head and have his number.
Yeah, and that's just in turn thanks to the fact that Nerchio has played so many games online and offline in every single matchup. I think he has something like a 60-some% win ratio in this matchup alone across a huge sample of games.
Yeah, definitely. He has several thousand matches played in competitive games, and this guy is just crazy. We're going to find out what exactly he's going to do against DieStar here. Opening up, of course, pretty normal with the hatch first, going into the pool, first few queens. Going to find out when he's going to take his gas, if he's going to go for a fast tech as Blighters. But for Nerchio, we usually see an earlier 3rd base a lot more often.
Yeah. There's sometimes that DieStar even can actually... He knows that Overlord is actually hanging around as natural, so there's some Terrans that do end up lifting off barracks to try and catch it and stuff like that, but you sacrifice a little bit of production for that kind of capability. So DieStar's foregoing that kind of potential for now.
And what we have for DieStar is a double gas very early in the game. The bunker at the front just making sure that those early Zerglings of Nerchio can't do any damage and won't be able to delay mining at the natural or even take down the SCV before it's done. And so far Nerchio hasn't added any extractors at all. So he's just sticking with his normal build, going for the extra queens here, give him a little bit more safety against the Hellions, spread the creep a bit faster. And of course later on, they're going to be really useful against a potential Banshee play.
Yeah, they really are here. He's going to be very, very well fortified indeed. We now have indeed that reactor on the way. So it's just nicely set up on this map to place those buildings in those locations. So he will be going into the Hellion production very soon, which is nice to see because, as we learned in day number 1, passive Terran versus Zerg, not the best option.
Yeah. Right now we have the Hellions on the way, and actually Hellions are one of those weapons. If you manage to get them into the Mineral Lines, you do so much damage. A Hellion run-by was what sealed Jaedong's fate in the up and downs. He was not able to get out of the group. He played an amazing opening, and then suddenly those Hellions arrive in his main base. He doesn't pay attention to the minimap. He doesn't close his wall. The Hellions are in, and he loses 40 drones just like that. And Keen, another Korean Terran player, is also really obsessed with Hellion play because they are just so good and cost efficient against Zerg. If you don't have the perfect wall, if you don't see them early on, if you can't defend against them. Nerchio knows all that, so he's already preparing. He has a spine crawl at the front, the extra queens will help him, and I guess that we will see double evolution chamber at his natural to make sure that even if he has to sacrifice a little bit of mining time at the third, his main and his natural will still be safe.
Yeah, I also sort of like the potential of what we're seeing here from DieStar. He's adding on 3 starports. I saw the 3 gases and was like, what on earth is going on 4 starports? This could be a lot of Banshees.
Yes, he's going for 4 starports right away. He can't afford Banshees with 4 starports.
Well, I guess what he has to do here is really get his 4th gas geyser and then somehow accrue so much gas. But actually, he's only got 2 in that 3rd gas right now. So he's going to be in a bit of a tight bind. And actually, now that we go over to see a Nerchio, he's going up to layer as well as quite a few gases himself. So there's a potential he could swing in something very, very hard to deal with for Banshees.
This is already really crazy, and I actually like that DieStar is rolling a bit of dice here. This is actually just insane. He's going up with 4 tech labs right away. He doesn't have the gas at his at this natural just yet, the 4th one that is. So let's see what exactly DieStar is going to do here. And he's going for the Banshees after all. He just wants to arrive with those Banshees in the early stage. Here we have 4 of them, and he really pulls this off. Look how perfectly this is lined up. He has exactly the gas that he needs to build 4 Banshees as soon as the tech labs are done. This is perfectly timed out by DieStar.
Do you know that even Motor, that Overseer could actually put a dent in this plan as it's going to head on in. There's only 1 or 2 Marines to deal with it. He's not going to see it.
No, he's going for it, and he sees it. 1, 2, 3, and Nerchio is starting his spore crawlers right away. He's looking at this, he's like, oh my god, what are you doing?
Well, one of the things I was going to point out is DieStar's opening looks just normal, right? There's a few Hellions at the front of his base. There's a potential that he could have been going for mech or something like that if there were more than 4 or 6 Hellions, but he's just... oh my god.
He sees the Banshees, and his first reaction is, roach speed.
Yeah. I guess so. Oh. Behind this, DieStar knows he's been scouted and he's throwing down more barracks now. He can't really get away with that many Banshees, but he's actually still making a few more, so they're very versatile units. They can do a lot of damage.
DieStar has to be really careful here how he approaches this, but this is a lot of damage potential that he has. He can even take on a few of those spore crawlers if he wants to. Those extra queens are a different story though. There are so many of them, and now moving into the spore crawlers is a big problem. The main base is still safe. DieStar is up against a Zerg player who's really trying to make this happen, this defense with the queens, with the spore crawlers, and he's going into the Nidus network. He wants to Nidus and wants to go for a huge roach attack with speed.
And that's going to be pretty punishing. Yes, there will be a timer on those units if Banshees are there back to defend that kind of play, but realistically here, Nerchio is, he's performing very, very strongly. Oh, but the Marines, they spot the Nidus!
Awesome. Really good by DieStar. Nice scouting here, and he anticipated something like this. And now suddenly we have the Banshees going down. DieStar with the attempt to crush this force, but look at those roaches. They are completely out of position, and they are all gonna die if they're not paying attention. He's moving them back already. The queens are still there, and the queen count is insane. We are up to 9 queens with the energy to transfuse. If he gets that 1 Nidus up and the queens right at the doorstep of DieStar, then suddenly there's not a lot that those Banshees will be able to accomplish.
Yeah, and those Queens can easily spread a little bit of creep if they want as well outside his opponent's space, making it a little bit easier for those to move around. There's a lot of Hellions there, not going to make too much of a dent in those Roaches, but yeah, when they line up, they don't do too badly. So another command center is on the way for DieStar, but he needs to be very, very mindful of this defense.
I really like that DieStar was going for a move like this, but now he's supply blocked, as is Nerchio, both of them. And the Zerg player, once again, doesn't leave himself open to anything. We have all those Banshees, and so many Zerg players would have died to this, even after scouting it. But Nerchio with the perfect decisions here, moving in now, and can DieStar hold?
What an insane game number one here between these two guys as Nerchio formed himself a really, really nice concave to kick things off. The Banshee's still doing a lot of damage, as is the Bio on the ground, dealing with these Roaches quite nicely, but good transfuses on a lot of those Roaches, keeping them alive for a good portion of time. And actually, it looks like Nerchio's going to be able to push through this location for now.
Nerchio already with a massive supply lead. Another Banshee is now just being targeted by the Queens. Transfuse after transfuse, saving those Queens, and we have the Roaches still on the ground, taking down one Harvester after another. 10 workers killed already, 11, and he just doesn't stop. He has a massive army right at the doorstep of the natural expansion, moving his way now up to the ramp, and Nerchio is about to crush his opponent in game number one.
GG! Nerchio.
Once again, absolutely cheese-proof. 4 Stargates. This is just an amazing build by DieStar. It all worked out so well. At the beginning, I never believed for a second that he could afford all those Banshees with only 3 geysers, but it worked out so well. You can really see that he practiced this build over and over again.
Yeah, it was there, it was implemented, and it was precise, but Nerchio dealing with that. Who thought going into the game number one between these guys we would see Queen Roach versus Banshee Bio?
Yeah, that was pretty... I really love it that he went for it, but Nerchio just proved to be too strong. I mean, this defense, he saw what was coming, the timing with the Overseer, moved in, dropped those Spore Crawlers, and then he immediately went for the Nidus Network and for this attack with the Roaches. Those extra Queens, of course, making all the difference here.
Yeah, it's just great. If you can't use them for the defense and you're happy with the position you're in, use them in the offense. Anyway.
Nerchio, I like that.
Well, we'll send it over to the analysis desk, guys, and we'll see what they have to say about that game.
Did I call that aggressive play or what?
You did call that.
It's all up here, man.
He did it. He was like, Nerchio, 4-port.
Yeah.
Sick.
Good job, Jared.
What's going to happen? Hey, thanks, man. They don't hire me for nothing. It's not just my good looks. All right, break it down for me in more detail, man.
So, the 4-port is it's a pretty risky build, and it's obviously very, very aggressive. Basically, what DieStar does here, 1 Rex expand, makes some Hellions, and then delays for a while. No, it's good. Delays for a while until he's got enough money to put down all the starports at once. And then once he does that, he starts making Banshees. He makes 4 Banshees, he's got a little bit of gas banked up, and he actually stays on 3 gases. It's around 1 Banshee can be supported on 1 gas geyser. That's like kind of how it goes. So with 3 gas geysers, and if we go into the replay, I want to show this. Okay, so on this map, Overlord can always see this gas geyser. And so you look at this build and you're like, well, DieStar, you need 4 gas geysers to build out of 4 starports. But if he takes this gas geyser, this is such a huge tell. Nerchio's like, what are you doing? Why do you have this gas geyser at your natural this early? There is no standard build, there is no non-aggressive build that has that gas geyser. So the way he times it out, he gets only 3, banks a bit of gas, and then is able to build 4 Banshees at once. Does a pretty good job of concealing what he's doing, but then the Overseer flies into his base. Basically, the moment Nerchio sees the starports with Tech Labs, he knows exactly what to do. He knows the counter, he knows the timing attack.
I felt like DieStar, he had only 1 window to win in this game. That's when the Overseer saw the 4 starports.
Yeah.
He just had to go for it completely. Like, go into the Spores with the Hellions, try to take them down with both the Banshees and the Hellions, and try to kill the 3rd. And then if he's on 2 bases against 2 bases, he can buy himself some time, make a 3rd command center, and maybe go into a macro game, you know, after this.
I mean, it wouldn't have,
BCs.
It wouldn't have been, usually when you do that, you actually have to, like, basically win the game at that point. If he had killed the 3rd, that would have been pretty good. I think, actually, though, if he somehow knew that Nerchio wasn't going mutas and continued to make Banshees, then he would have had pretty reasonable play, but it's so risky. Once your opponent gets a Spire up, if he makes 8 to 10 mutas, like, the game is over. You cannot really defend that. Like, you can make Vikings out of your starboards, but you can't ever attack. You can't ever, like, move across the map because your Viking Banshee combination will never be able to beat Queen Muta, or even if he goes into Corruptor. So Nerchio did a really good job, scouted the build, and made a very appropriate, very precise counterplay for it that worked out very well.
Awesome. Well, the next game just got underway. We're going to knight us on over to the casters. Enjoy.
Welcome back, guys, to the caster's desk as we jump into game number 2 very, very soon here. Who would have thought that in game number 1?
Yeah, that was a really interesting strategy by DieStar, and I really love how QXC dissected the entire play. So Nerchio is in the lead right now. We have him with a 1-0, and we're going into map number 2, which is Entombed Valley. There we have DieStar on camera.
Yeah, doing pretty well. Well, trying to do pretty well with the very unconventional tactic there as Nerchio as well. So let's jump right on into the game. Entombed Valley is our map as stated previously. Will Nerchio to be able to take it 2-0, or will DieStar bring it back?
And he's starting to the bottom left of the map in blue. Our Terran player down a game already in this best of 3 series. He's from Poland, and his ID is DieStar.
And spawning up in the top right-hand corner, 1 game up after some fantastic responses. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Ace and Nerchio!
Entombed Valley with those cross positions, definitely a map where Nerchio can be a lot more economic than he was in the last game. And DieStar, of course, with the build like he showed us in game number 1, most likely not going to do too much. We really saw once more that Nerchio is really so safe against all these strategies. And with the distance between the 2 bases, I highly doubt that DieStar is going to for the same play or a similar one. He will just try to macro it up, but that's not going to be easy against a player like Nerchio, and especially not on a map like Entombed Valley with cross position.
Indeed, the Terran needs to exploit their opponent early on. They need to, do a little bit of damage, or at least threaten with a little bit of damage, and from there on, play out that macro game in turn. But coming back to game number 1, we actually saw a relatively similar style from Nama during the previous Home Story Cup, where he just went for a ton of ports with Banshees, trying to put on some pressure against a Zerg opponent, or was it Protoss actually? But the point is that a lot of Banshees very, very quickly, and it can be devastating if it's not scouted, but if it is, then it's easy to prepare for.
And StarCraft is about scouting, it's about information, it's about acquiring those and then what you're going to do with it. And Nerchio just has the game sense to realize that something is coming. He always scouts, he tries to just gather as many information as possible. And at the same time, he has the knowledge and the decision making to always go for exactly the strategy that he needs to execute to counter it.
Yeah, it's true. Nerchio is super solid here as he now establishes himself his own little base. No guesses just yet, but for now he's just cruising along with a few drones here and there, adding on those double queens, so getting that production flying. And on a map like this, I wouldn't be surprised if Nerchio goes for some, really aggressive creep spread, for example. It's so easy to get it going in the middle of the map.
Yeah, I really want to know what DieStar is going to execute here. Of course, in the early game, you want to get a few Hellions out usually. You want to get a bit of map control, try to force the creep back, which got so much more difficult after the Queen range got improved. So for DieStar, this is really, I feel, a map where it's going to be so much harder for him to do something. Cloud Kingdom is a pretty good map still for Terran against Zerg. It's a pretty fair map, but on a map like Entombed Valley, I really feel that DieStar is in a lot of trouble here. At least if Nerchio can show us his standard solid play.
Yeah, that's very, very true here. Nerchio here, very strong. I want to see DieStar take risks. I mean, technically game 1 was a risk, right? Just in case it gets scouted out, you're in a bit of a bad spot. But say just, I don't know, taking an early 3rd base whilst trying to contain with Hellions to kick things off. He's going to apparently be going into bio from that point on, but still, it would be nice to see a little bit of a deviation from the norm.
We currently have the 3rd base now coming up for Nerchio. Without killing the rocks, he goes straight to the 3rd base and drops the hatch. And Hellions alone won't be able to do anything here. For me, it's rather a question of what exactly DieStar is going to do with all those extra barracks that he currently adds. We have him with Tech Lab number 1. And we'll see most likely Stim very soon. He adds the 2nd gas too, where we have the extractors now currently for his opponent.
Yep, as he will now head out across the map here with the Hellions, looking to find a little bit of a position here to deal with all these little Zerglings heading out the map. But we already have the Spinecrawler on the way here, as Nerchio tries to break down the rocks, trying to find that 3rd base.
double reactor here for DieStar, and this will give him a lot more production, of course. To the top right now, the Hellions trying to do a bit of damage, but as you already said, this is a map where we will most likely see Nerchio go for a really good creep spread. He has those extra queens out already. There are 4 in total, and he can use one of those to go straight over to the third base for the inject. Whereas we now have, in addition to the Hellions, also a few Marauders being built. And this helps you to deal with early Roach aggression.
Yeah.
But without additional tech labs, I don't think that we are going to see a Hellion and Marauder push that has become really popular.
Yep. And they can also be useful later on as well to potentially soak up, Banelings if in the mid-game, if your opponent's being slightly sloppy with their control. And, what Nerchio does with his creep spread is really nice. He's actually spreading it at the base of his second base as well towards his third, just to make sure he can deal with the eventuality of drop play there.
Just look how well he does this. He has such a tight wall at his natural, but at the same time, this third base, he doesn't mind from it, and he knows those Hellions alone won't be able to take it down before his Roach Warren is out. So these timings work out so well for him. The saturation that he has allows him to saturate his natural and the main base very well. There is no angle for the Hellions, no gap to move in. He's going for all these Roaches. And with now 6 Roaches on the map and another 7 building, the speed upgrade now just coming up for his Roaches though, he can put just pressure onto DieStar, and DieStar has to move back, he has to defend, he can't pressure with the Hellions anymore. So Nerchio has the opportunity to just drone up behind it, go over to the third base, and have a massive economy against the Terran player.
That's a really good point, because, the 8 to 10 minute mark, as we've well pointed out before, is one of the vulnerable points in a Zerg taking their third. You have to just take precautions, make sure you don't transfer too many drones over to that third location, otherwise they're going to get toasted by those Hellions.
Look how heavily DieStar is currently committing to, Nerchio is committing to the Roaches. He's building so many, he doesn't drone at all at this point. 51 harvesters, that's all that he has. DieStar is moving into the middle of the map, and he has a fair amount of Marauders already. He's currently looking at 4 of them, and he still has an army that can do a lot of damage. So DieStar is now the aggressor, Nerchio playing it a little bit more defensive. The problem for DieStar is that at some point he has to realize that there is a huge army for Nerchio already there.
And 2 Trooper as well as speed for both units is on the way here. Nerchio going to push out against all of this army. DieStar realizes that's way too big for him to actually engage into here and has to retreat.
And here come those 15 drones that we talked about earlier. Him now realizing, well, I can't kill you with this. You didn't play too greedy. You got an army on your own. You moved into the middle of the map. I have to drone up. But yeah, that DieStar is not thinking about retreating at all. No, he's just looking for a different angle.
Yeah, exactly. Those Roaches, a few of them do come back to try and defend that, but meanwhile we had a few in the middle of the map. He does actually pull them back, not going to go for the full aggression with them, but there were a lot of Zerglings on the way as well, whilst Nerchio commits to that melee upgrade, as well as the Infestation Pit. So I felt that Nerchio could have been even okay with just the reinforcing Zerglings.
Yeah, he had so many Zerglings, and I think that he could have tried to just completely crush this force, trying to surround it and make sure that he can't retreat with it. But DieStar for now is just poking a little bit more, and he could drop a scan, and there it is. Taking down those creep tumors, really important here. Just making sure that Nerchio doesn't get this creep curvature that we mentioned in the beginning, because if he just spreads the creep throughout the entire map, then suddenly he has the better vision, he has such a huge speed advantage. But now DieStar just still trying to poke a little bit, buying himself time to set up the defense at the third base that he just placed down.
And Nerchio on the pursuit here, looking for a little bit of a push out. We do have DieStar currently supply blocked slightly, so he can't reinforce with too much, but Nerchio for now lets up, he goes home. He's happy to just defend a few of these drops that are occurring around the map. And really no workers killed here for DieStar just yet, but he might be able to force a cancel.
And talking about workers, another 16 have just been built. So many drones now for Nerchio. And these drop attempts by DieStar, they are exactly what he needs to do. But Nerchio just shuts them down left, right, bottom, and center.
Yeah, there's no way he's going to let up on any of these defenses. The Roaches can't quite see up that hill onto that few Marine units, but regardless, we have DieStar still trying to drop in other locations. The medevac goes down, a nice pick up there for Nerchio.
DieStar has a bit of a problem with his upgrades. He is currently upgrading his armor, or his attack upgrade, just finished it, but we already have +2 armor and attack for Nerchio on the production tab. So Nerchio at this point is just out macroing his opponent. DieStar has all 3 bases, but he needs that second engineering bay, he needs the armory that we just see on the production tab. It's really difficult for him to make all this happen. The game of DieStar so far depends really on Nerchio not making any mistakes, and it's just the solid play of the Zerg player.
And it's a really cool thing that you mentioned, you know, that he's getting the +2 weapons, etc., because he's never committing to range when he's making roaches in the mid-game. He's just using them as a transitionary period onto the Hive now on the way, committing to the Zerglings, etc. And, you know, there's no Spire on the way just yet, so we might see Ultralisk Cavern.
You know, I really like how DieStar approached this game. It's just that Nerchio once more was aware of what's going on and was kind of prepared. DieStar is putting a lot of aggression onto his opponent, and I feel this is exactly what you need to do. And he tried to macro it up as perfectly as he could. He got the third command center, he started with his upgrades, he had the force, moved out, did a bit of damage, or tried to force the creep back. It's just, I feel against a different Zerg player, he would have done so much damage with these attacks. So for him, this is really a situation where he looks at the game and he's like, well, this is not going at all how it was supposed to go.
No, not at all here. DieStar, I mean, despite all of this drop aggression, he still keeps up on the macro, and that's one thing that really categorizes DieStar as a really good player in the European scene right now. And, you know, with these, this Baneling Nest now on the way here for Nerchio, and Zerglings constantly cleaning up these drops. Oh, but DieStar did get a Queen Snipe. He's still being shut down on that aggression.
We have the Ultralisk Cavern now for Nerchio. On a map like in Toon Valley, you can make Ultralisk work. It's a little bit similar to a map like Antigua Shipyard. You have a lot of open space in the map. It all depends on where you're going to put the aggression onto your opponent. But DieStar is moving out now. He has 1-1. He's going for the +2 attack upgrade. Nerchio just about to finish +2/+2, but DieStar is now trying to push into the middle of the map. He has more army supply than Nerchio. He's still using those dropships to the top left, forcing Nerchio to divide his attention to 2 or 3 points of the map at once.
God, you're right. Essentially, both players are everywhere. But unfortunately for DieStar, you know, Nerchio shutting down all of these drops. He's going to push him once again. Infested Terrans land on some of those tanks. I can't believe that tank survived for as long as it did. But now DieStar still pushing against this. The Investors, I wonder how much energy they're actually having. But he's just constantly not letting up on this assault.
And here we go again. Those roaches closing the distance, killing tank after tank. And DieStar definitely losing the battle here. A lot more resources lost than his opponent. Nerchio immediately maxed out again, going for the Ultralisks now. Continuous plating, +3/+3, and reinforcing with 70 Zerglings, while still spreading creep, while still securing himself these bases and defending against the drop play of DieStar to the top left.
And blocking bases as well. DieStar is going to have to throw down the scan at his 4th location to stop that roach from being very pesky. And you're right, the chitinous plating, the 3/3, all of this benefits those Ultralisks massively, along with those Zergling Baneling attacks. This becomes an impenetrable force here for DieStar to deal with.
DieStar, on the other hand, is also building up a lot of minerals right now. He really wants this game. He needs this win. And we have him now taking this base. He wants to get for the 4th base, but in the middle of the map, suddenly we have another engagement. The tanks are split. DieStar doing what he can, manually targeting down those infestors, doing a good job. Nerchio with a burrow, immediately moving back with them, saving them for now. But the Terran player once more gets the worst engagement.
The Ultralisks are just too much here for DieStar. They tank so much damage without even having 3/3 and chitinous plating. DieStar's forced to pick up the remainder of his forces. He has to retreat from this location, try and put them on aggression somewhere else. But he is held back by some siege tanks for now.
Yeah, moving into this choke point position with the siege tank on the high ground is not something that Nerchio can afford, even though he's ahead. A few drones are trying to participate in the battle. They are completely tired with just harvesting mineral and gas. No, they actually just transitioned over to the base that I didn't see. But it would have been much more fun if they wanted to fight.
It would have been. They would have been their warriors with their little minerals. And look, this DieStar manages to realize exactly what's going on with that, but still, Nerchio so far ahead right now. It's going to be very, very difficult for him to really shut this down. And DieStar will get the kill on that hatchery. A nice pickup there from DieStar, but still Nerchio overflowing.
And no cancel. No cancel for him. And now, once more, Nerchio just trying to move in. He's maxed out again. And look at the harvester count, 74 to 76. The army supply is a bit in favor of Nerchio, and he's moving in. The base is lifted. The siege tanks, they are being sandwiched. This is a Nerchio sandwich, and Terran players, they don't like it. The lift at the depots doesn't even work, though suddenly everything is open to Nerchio. He can just move into the 3rd and also to the natural.
Kaiser Blades cleaving through those SCVs and bio like butter here. Nerchio so far ahead and even killing off so many workers regardless. They just do not die.
DieStar with a GG as he has to leave the game. Nerchio taking the series with a quick 2-0 against his Terran opponent. That was quite impressive.
Yeah, looking pretty good there. I do love the Zergling Infestor mid-game into Ultralist play. I think it's really, really strong in this matchup, and Nerchio is the kind of player that can eke out so well on that Hive.
It was just such a solid play. There were no openings for DieStar to abuse, and DieStar didn't play bad at all. No, he used those timings, he tried to put aggression on his opponent, but there was always this big force for Nerchio that threw him back, and he didn't find any point on the map where he could actually attack and do damage.
There was never an option. Regardless of all of the great drop aggression there by DieStar, Nerchio was just everywhere.
So we're giving things over back to the analysis desk where QXC will give you a few more information about these builds and what we've seen. So guys, back to you.
Nerchio wins 2-0. His first game in this group. You called it the whole way through. You have an uncanny knack. You really know this matchup. Do you want to explain to everyone at home what you were explaining to me as we went through it?
Sure. So pretty much at the, I don't know, it was at like the 12 or 14 minute mark, you can almost see that the game is inevitably snowballing to a certain point. It's pretty much, there's a point in the game with the build that Nerchio did where he has 3 base saturated before Terran is even really mining from their third. And at that point in the game, here, let's pause. This is a good place to stop and talk. At that point in the game, basically what happens is Zerg is 3 base saturated, they're able to go on to 4 or potentially 5 bases. Meanwhile, the Terran is just establishing their third, and so you have this 1 base disadvantage going into the mid game, going into what is eventually Hive Tech. And basically, in order to play safe, in this game, Nerchio makes a whole bunch of roaches, he makes a bunch of speedlings. And so if we just jump into the replay real quick here, I'm just going to highlight kind of the game state. So here are the roaches and speedlings. This is basically what he was using to defend against this pressure. Meanwhile, we can see 1, 2, 3 base, all saturated. 4th base is coming, but in DieStar world, 3rd base is not even mining yet. And this is just kind of a product of the builds that they use, the strategies they employed. From here on out, Nerchio is up 1 base, he transitions into Hive Tech, he has much more economy, much more money to convert into units, and is able to take the win. Big Ultralist timing attack. DieStar just does not have enough units to really deal with it.
All right, well, we are going to take a quick commercial break and come back to our next game shortly. We're going to keep these analyses short, running a little bit behind. I want to give everyone a quick update in case they weren't aware. From Group A, moving on, was Parting, Lucifron, and Mana. Lucifron making an incredible comeback in that group.
Very surprising. He was on the verge of elimination. We had basically
written him off.
We were like, okay, Lucifron, his last match was against Parting.
He needed a 2-0 Bly. He 2-0'd Bly. Then he needed to 2-0 Parting to survive. He 2-0'd Parting and survived and moved on.
And then made it out of his group, and we're like, whoa, hey,
amazing.
Lucifron.
And Group A was had epic matches too. Incredible. Grubby winning 2-1 against TLO, holding an all-in the last game to stay alive. TLO winning his last game to just edge out Moonglade, who ended up finishing 4th. So from Group A, we had Grubby, Dream, and TLO moving on.
With the order being
Dream
Grubby.
first, TLO second.
TLO second, and then Grubby.
And Grubby winning on maps against Moonglade, both of them going 3-2. Tough break for Moonglade.
Grubby actually making it out of his group on 1 map.
Yes.
If he had not, if he had won 1 less map, then he would have been tied with Moonglade.
But now we have more Grubby.
Yes.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
Can't wait to get to analyze some of his matches tomorrow. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. There'll be more StarCraft 2 action.